Hi, my name is Heather Sielicki, and I'm happy to be here today launching off discussions around housing as part of the Housing Design Challenge through Cooperation Eugene. Today, I have with me two people who came to mind when I first read the Housing Design Challenge, which was one that called for affordable housing and called for visionaries with relevant experience that could create something really new and regenerative for our community. And the two people I think of most are Sabra and Thomas, who you'll be meeting in just a moment. And as just a disclaimer, I'm working with them on this project, but I'm the host for this conversation today. So I'll be asking them questions. I'll give them a chance to answer. And then in about a half an hour, I'll give you a chance to ask questions as well. So just going in alphabetical order by first name, Sabra, welcome today. Would you introduce yourself and your experience?
Hi, my name is Sabra Marcroft. Some of you already know me. And for those of you who do and who don't, my experience in the area of housing and shelter starts with having been one of the first few people working to start what became Opportunity Village. And Opportunity Village later grew to become what is now Square One Villages. But that wasn't part of my experience with it. My experience was that initial formative first couple of years, and then the first year of operations. So since then, I have been working on a couple of different city and county bodies and just pushing and prodding wherever I can and finding out more stuff about how we got into this terrible situation with not enough housing and what might be able to be done to address the situation going forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Sabra. Thanks for being here. Thomas.
Hi, everyone. I'm Thomas Holden. I know only a few of you. Like Heather said, we're Sabra and I are, and Heather are working together on a regenerative housing model. My experience, I was living in Africa for 17 years. I came here 2 years ago. And I was running a company that did Mount Kilimanjaro treks. You might wonder how that is related to housing and homelessness here. And I was working with a group of extremely vulnerable people in Tanzania, and that is the mountain porters that carry everyone's stuff up and down the mountain. The conditions there, when I started running the company in 2003, were quite appalling. And I started a porter organization working for the betterment of their working conditions, so that they wouldn't be so marginalized and they would be empowered. So now that organization that I helped to start has more than 1/3 of all of the tour operators operating on Mount Kilimanjaro meet the standards, and we developed objective ethical porter treatment standards for that organization. And now, like I said, 1/3 of the organizations are meeting those standards. So we help to create a real positive change in how porters are hired and treated and paid, and how their working conditions on Mount Kilimanjaro. And I'm also a co-founder of an organization in Tanzania that is now 5 years old, and it's called the Arusha Bicycle Center, ABC Bicycles. It's been renamed, and that is, we partnered with a Swiss nonprofit organization that takes bicycles from the streets of Zurich and Geneva and sends them to Africa in a container. And we took those. We built a business there, a social enterprise, to basically rebuild those bikes, teach underprivileged people skills on how to fix bikes, and now we're selling 8,000 bikes a year. A third of those are being subsidized by the Swiss government to provide school children with bicycles to get back and forth to school, because that was the major challenge we were dealing with there. But so I'm a passionate cyclist myself and committed to developing sustainable transport. So when I came to America, I thought maybe the streets were paved with gold and everything here would be perfect, but it wasn't so. So I found Heather and Sabra, and we have a similar vision for how to make a regenerative housing project here with a unique regeneration model. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm really excited to see all of your faces here.
Thank you. And thank you to Phyllis, who I see join us, and Patty, to your cat, who I've really enjoyed seeing on your shoulder. So I'm going to read our vision that brought you all here today. And then I'm going to move on to questions where I'll be asking them each different questions. We envision an integrated housing model anchored on human-powered transportation and sustainable community-oriented microenterprise. The heart of our operations is the assembly and proliferation of an innovative, ultra-high cargo capacity e-trike. In creating the transport, we will provide workforce development training with live work opportunities, space for fabrication and project work, education and art, and basic needs for affiliated workers, including showers, storage lockers, community kitchens, and meeting spaces. The initial pilot will serve as a sandbox for testing the e-trike and training affiliates. The community will begin as a microsite with up to 6 residents, with a majority of space dedicated to developing collaborative work related work such as centralized collection and recycling, biocycling work, fix-it and repair services, and reforestation projects. The program is intended to support existing microsite and rest stop communities, as well as help to foster new ones. Individuals engaged in the program will receive support for increased ability through hands-on work experience, entrepreneurial enterprise development, team building, and conflict mediation. So we'll start with Thomas. Let me ask you the question, Thomas. Why is it that oh, I missed a question, curses.
Sorry, what was that? You cut off.
Sorry, I just lost my questions. There we go. Okay. So my question to you, Thomas, is why is transportation essential to the conversation on expanding shelter and housing options to meet the community's need?
Well, transportation is really the central component of our safety needs. Right up there on Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. Some of our very basic needs revolve around transport. In addition to our physiological needs for having food and a warm shelter at night, it's a security need and an economic need. None of us can expect to be able to operate our lives and to be able to have any kind of livelihood and a job without a way to get back and forth to that job. And likewise, the ability to carry and to secure your belongings. So that's, it's one of our very basic needs, even though it's not specifically listed in Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. It's one of our great unsaid needs, especially in this country where things are so spread out. We need to have a way of transporting each other, transporting ourselves and our things around, whether it's personal needs for bringing home groceries or economic needs for as part of a job. Sometimes practical skilled jobs need, those workers need to be able to carry tools and certain things with them to the job. So transport is right up there on our list of basic needs.
Thank you. Oh, Sabra, did you want to add anything to transportation?
Well, I think I just want to amplify what Thomas already said, which is that transportation is vital to meeting the basic human needs of a person. And if a person has shelter but no transportation, then they require a huge amount of help from other people who do have transportation, because we do not have the capacity to provide for all our needs in one location. And
Mhm.
having adequate transportation that a person can afford to operate is super important to being able to get a job or do any of the other basic things that a human being needs to do to maintain their life.
Thank you. In the Housing Design Challenge, there were several elements of designing a product that were important. And the first one was affordability. They said it should be a viable rent to own or buy option for households earning $35,000 a year or less. And in our instance, it's less, a layer below housing. Thomas, can you speak to how the solution that we're proposing is will be affordable for people?
So like you said, we are addressing a layer below housing. We all recognize that there are needs at every level, not just permanent housing, but even temporary shelter. One of the barriers has been the HUD definition of what is considered housing and what is considered a shelter. But I think that we're all here and we all recognize that we need to look outside the box and develop all other layers even below what the HUD considers shelter. We've been working on, we've been actively prototyping a locally designed walk-in tent, and I'm continue to prototype. We've continued to prototype this design and have some innovative ideas on how to integrate used products so we can upcycle and recycle products even from the bike industries. As for an example, tubes in order to create the strappings and webbings, and locally harvested willow trees in order to provide the supports for the frame. So when I first designed this and did a demonstration down in Wayne Morse Plaza for the mayor and the city council back in October, I designed a tent that was made with aluminum poles and modern materials. So since then, I've been looking for cheaper and more sustainable options for building this tent. And like I said, we've made some progress. The idea would be to get this tent to be able to be made by the layman sewist, and basically assembled using mostly upcycled parts and things that right now are just discarded and put in the waste heap. So that's one of our projects. The other project that we're prototyping is actually to create a mobile shelter conversion from this e-trike. So to be honest, we don't have the e-trike in hand. I found the product, the perfect product, and have that on order, and it's on its way here right now. So I'm expecting it to arrive in about a month. But I've been involved in bicycle design and been building tents and building things for many years. So have some applicable experience there, and we're ready to prototype a mobile shelter, which may even be a possibility to be more or less a lifestyle shelter choice for some people who would prefer that, instead of having a fixed address.
Thank you. Another one of the qualities in the design challenge is that that the housing is livable with aesthetically pleasing, safe, secure for intergenerational mix, non-toxic, near transport, mixed use functions. Sabra, can you speak to the livability of the solution proposed?
Yes, livability. Well, the project that we're working on involves having a microsite, which for those who might not be familiar is a small alternative shelter model that involves spaces for up to 6 people to sleep at night, and individual shelters for that, and then more group use areas such as kitchens. This might not seem very livable if your standard is housing, is even standard affordable housing, which is of course the long-term goal. But what I found when we were creating Opportunity Village is that the waiting list to get into supported affordable housing, to even get on the waiting list, takes a year or two. And then once you're on the waiting list, it takes another maybe 3 years for your name to come up. And then if you're still around and if you still need the housing, then you become eligible for a voucher. And the voucher is not really enough to get you a place to live in a really tight housing market. So we're talking a gap of 3 to 5 years and nothing to fill that gap besides some of the shelter models that we've created. Not we in terms of the small group, but we as a community. And in order for people to be able to make it, to literally survive until they are able to get into any housing, there has to be a place for them to be. And since it's so hard to get the subsidies, and we don't have any control over whether the subsidies will be available to any given individual, it becomes super important for there to be a way for people to earn income. And providing shelter, access to transportation, and employment skills are really the foundations for any kind of livable housing.
Thank you. The next point, or did you want to add to that, Thomas, on the livability? The next point is the challenge calls for the housing type to be ecologically sound, constructed with environmentally friendly materials, have efficient and ecologically supportive heating and cooling, green landscaping, incorporated closed loop systems, among others. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, well, our micro enterprise model is really the heart of this, creating a closed loop systems by creating a model for permaculture and transport. Of course, we will, these type of integrated systems generally haven't been used, but we all know that the time, I think we've come to the conclusion now, especially post-pandemic, or as we're living through this pandemic, is that our strategy of dealing with these things one at a time is over. We need an integrative approach, and we need to create this economic opportunity in micro-enterprising all this will be, the cargo track is a perfect platform for this, is it will create these work opportunities based on practical skills that build resilience, and in our community, and with the reconciliation of effect of basically addressing these deficiency needs that these people have. The current, one of my friends calls this group the precariat. They're living on the precarious edge of existence, and they need these deficiency needs are not being met. These basic physiological needs, the safety needs, the transport, and then moving up to belongingness and love, and esteem needs. Basically, if we create a center that offering some economic opportunity, then these facets of our design will engender this kind of growth. So when I was living in Africa, we and it's true in whether you're in the Serengeti National Park or you're in the towns in East Africa, is that nothing goes to waste. And we learn to make what we needed in life, in order to serve our needs, not from new materials, but from using older materials. And we live in a society now where our waste, and all of this waste that we create is whisked from our vision, and we don't realize the scope of the missed opportunities that can be found in older materials, and how to remake things and how to fix things. We've largely lost this ability. So all of our materials, they'll be made. Sustainability is a way that it can benefit the environment and the local people and the local community. So it has to be, every decision we make is based on this driving sustainability and making these closed loop systems, so we're not creating more waste. And so we're essentially giving the opportunity for this precariat to have a foothold, address these deficiency needs, and these closed loop systems. So that's our design standpoint, is not letting things go to waste, and using the resources we have, creating these community partnerships. So I may have gotten a little off base there, but I thought it
No,
was.
that's exactly right. And I think, Sabra, did you want to expand on what he was saying about the micro enterprise opportunities that will help to be both ecologically sound, but also help with climate mitigation?
Well, okay. So we're talking about helping people to gain transportation and to have a safe place to shelter, and creating space to develop micro enterprise projects that are things like making things out of recycled and repurposed materials, including locally grown materials, and doing some tree planting for reforestation and streamside erosion mitigation efforts. All of these kinds of things, first off, they have an immediate positive benefit. You plant more trees, you are doing climate mitigation work. You create transportation, which is human powered. That is climate mitigation work. But also in relocalizing, meeting human needs, we're reducing transportation miles. And that is climate mitigation work. It's all part of the same, it's all part of the same world. We're all working together.
So this concludes the first part, which is about the design of the housing, and I'd like to offer a time for asking questions. And if you have one, you could just raise your hand and we'll start with Claire.
Thanks, everybody. I got a bunch of questions, but I don't want to hog the floor. So it would be help when I think of regenerative. I want to know when you say the word regenerative, there's lots of things that you've discussed that I would consider regenerative, but I want to know how you're framing that term. And so that's question number one. And question number two is also related to regenerative is, what is your business model for generating these jobs and resources? Are you going to be manufacturing these bikes? I'm totally curious. Thanks.
Thomas, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so when we say regenerative, the name of our outfit is Regeneristas. So it's and a barista, the word it came from, we all know what regenerative is, but the barista is a personal, interactive, kind of a face-to-face contact, and that's how we envision ourselves, a horizontally integrated organization that is re-envisions how collaboration works within an organization, how an organization will value all of its members, and basically how to build a great team, someone who a team that values the purpose and recognizes the value in that in that commitment and that loyalty to the organization. So I found that working with these porters in Tanzania, it actually required meeting them face to face. And the first few times I did it, it was extremely nerve-wracking, and because there were so many, 500 people and no PA, so I had to yell at the top of my voice in Swahili, but it's in order to be heard. But actually meeting on a regular basis and meeting people face to face and dealing with people on a human level is the essence of what we're bringing. As for our business model, the bicycle industry is growing at nearly 6% per year. Currently about the global bicycle market's about 52 billion. They predict by 2025, it's going to be about 85 billion. This is a massive growth. We all know that any of you who ride bicycles, you know right now it's very difficult to buy one. And it's difficult to get parts. The bicycle industry is growing. This non-congregate way of transport is growing. For me, I'm passionate about cycling and I'm passionate about sustainable transport. So it was a natural move for me to be dedicated to this. And the business model is based on building an high-powered electric version of this with all-weather capacity for a consumer market. These are the market of people right now who maybe are looking for a electric-powered vehicle and looking to be healthy while they do it, because this vehicle can carry just as much as most small cars, and it will have ample power in order to provide a viable alternative to a small car for local transport, for moving goods and people, for anything up to about a 25-mile journey a day. So I think we think that's a lot of people, and there've been a lot of studies done by the industry and by the World Economic Forum about the growth of the bicycle industry and the growth of especially of the electric assist bicycle industry. The benefit of this is that you don't have to balance it. It'd be more like driving a car, because it won't turn over and you don't have to lean. So it's a non-leaning trike. So it opens up a possibility for personal transportation for a lot of people right now who don't even ride bikes. So that's our business model. I've been taking classes with the University of Oregon's and the Eugene Chamber of Commerce, their what's been called their RAIN program. Now it's called Onward Eugene, since September. So I've been getting a lot of help, and I've been meeting a lot of business leaders in this town and in this area. So we have, and that's how I actually met Heather, through the IDA program on Eugene RAIN. So, and also I was working in tourism. So the pandemic had completely wiped out my career, and I was looking for a way to start a sustainable business here. And my knowledge and my passion is on sustainable transport. And then I met Heather, as many of you call her, a rock star, and Sabra, just really people who I respect and value their experience and their expertise. And also we're just all, we speak the same language, and we have the same vision here. So those my two teammates and co-founders here, we're excited to be able to develop this model based on we're starting small with teaching the precariat some bicycle skills and some practical skills in resiliency. And then but the business model is based on building this trike. And yes, we are planning on manufacturing it here, even though I've ordered my first few units from China. And the picture that you all saw of the cargo trike, that is a ready to go model. I'll be receiving it in a month, and I'll build it. But that's our starting point. Really, it's maybe a glimpse of what this can be, but it's so much. What this can be so much more. So.
And if I could also ask Sabra, because Claire's question about regeneration, I wonder how that applies to the bike church and CAT.
Well, okay. I think I can address that. The Center for Appropriate Transport was a really vital hub in the human-powered transportation area in our community, and it no longer exists. It is not coming back. And that space in our community really needs probably more than one thing to fill it. There was a lot of potential that the Center for Appropriate Transport had that even they were not fully able to realize. And as things are changing with our climate and with our economy, we're going to need more and more options in order for the community to be resilient and to work on regenerative models. We're going to need more human-powered transportation. And maybe that doesn't quite address what you were asking. Heather, could you maybe help me get this back on track a little?
Yeah, no, I think one of the things I also see in this model is this community focus of becoming, trying to regenerate industry and areas where there's a lot of need, like in sewists. We have a great need for sewists, and teaching people how to make tents would be a way of helping to. So there's different elements, I think.
Right. Okay. So, and that leads me to when people gain the skills that they need to fulfill their own needs and also to be able to be employed, they are able to regenerate their own lives. And there are never going to be enough people helping in any paid capacity to help every single person in the way that they need to be helped in order to maximize their contribution to the community. And every person that we can give the tools to fish for themselves is another person also that can be helping the next people along. And that becomes a regenerative model in itself. Each one teach three.
I've got a question in the chat here from Joshua for Thomas. When you say the trike will be all weather, does that mean it will have some sort of way to keep rain off the rider?
Yeah, in fact, I was just answering that. I found a windscreen canopy designed for moped use in Southeast Asia. Designed for a vehicle that can go 40 miles an hour. So we're talking about a class two e-bike, at least for the motorized version, and then the pedal version, you'll have to be Lance Armstrong in order to make it go 20 miles an hour. So the windshield and the canopy over the top is a really simple design. And works brilliantly. Of course, I haven't had it on the trike yet, but I've seen it in Southeast Asia and seen videos, and I already have a few of them in-house. So it's just a matter of making a small modification, attaching it to the front bucket, and then we'll have an all-weather machine. Keep the rain off, which I think is going to be another design aspect which lowers the barrier for entry for a lot of people who don't like the possibility of driving around a bike in the open air when it's raining. That doesn't. So this is an extra factor that makes it more convenient and more useful.
And once we have a working prototype of the weather canopy, then we will work on having it made here. And that doesn't seem like it would be a very difficult hill to climb, because we are already in connection with people who are doing commercial sewing training and small manufacturing, so that we can gain what we need in order to be able to produce these weather canopies ourselves.
Right, not just the canopy, but in fact I'm real sustainability will depend on not importing, so we can cut down our carbon impact and use more locally available materials. So we are, like Sabra said, we're reaching out to local fabricators, local tree growers. Heather mentioned a few minutes ago something called Bike Church. It's not a new religion. It's an organization that formed under the I guess from the ashes of the Center for Appropriate Transport, with Neil Kearns, who's one of the former instructors at CAT, and he is currently serving the precarious community by providing essentially a maker space and some services to help people get some human powered transport. So we've been actually collaborating with him and getting that place cleaned up and basically ready to take on more capacity. We're envisioning a collaborative model that works with them and basically helps to recreate this makerspace and a training skills area. So we've been making a lot of relationships, even though we don't actually have our product yet. We've been busy every day envisioning this and creating the relationships and the partnerships that are going to be required to make this work.
Other questions? So I'll move to the next series of questions. This will be about 15 minutes, and then I'll give you another chance to ask questions. And this next section is as part of the design process. One of the housing challenge items is to engage in a process that's community-based, equity-oriented, research-led, and integrative. So Sabra, can you speak to how the process of designing all of this will be community-based?
Well, okay. First off, I want to just say that I'm pretty nervous, and so I'm having a little bit of a choke up moment where all of a sudden everything I was going to say has fled from my mind. So I'm making it up as I go along. But how is this community based? Well, let's see. Thomas just spoke about Bike Church. Bike Church is a part of the community that we're engaging with in order to help expand its reach and to enable us to also work on our project. And even though we don't have a space of our own to do that yet, that's one way that this is community based. We're developing these relationships and partnerships with different organizations. We're not trying to reinvent everything. I mean, thank goodness we don't have to. There's already a lot of really good things going on in this area that we can draw from and we can help support by what we're doing. And I think that's the most important way that we can be community-based, is by helping to expand the capacity of all of these different community groups to meet the needs of people who are moving towards housing and shelter. These are people that are potentially great contributors to our community who are not able to meet enough of their own needs to make their contribution at a level at which it can help everyone in our community. And then there are these groups that are doing great work, but could be doing even better and even more if they were better connected with each other. And if they had a source of trained workers. There are a number of things that we've pioneered in Eugene and the surrounding area, but we haven't been able to expand very much because there haven't been anybody. It's really hard to find employees that have the skill base necessary. And if you spend all your time teaching people how to do the things, then it's hard to do the things at an affordable level. And that's been a difficult nut to crack. And now there are a few of these groups that are reaching towards providing some skills training. There's enough already going on that if it were just connected in the right way, like what Cooperation Eugene is working on right now, then we could have an entirely different playing field in terms of developing a regenerative economy.
Thomas, can you speak to how this will be equity led? I mean, equity oriented. Oh, we've got you muted.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in our DNA. You and me and Sabra and a lot of us here, we're committed to developing equity. We recognize inequity, and that's why we're all here. And so many of us care about it. The day doesn't go by when we don't see an article in the newspaper about this issue. And I think really, like Sabra said, there's a lot of great organizations doing some good things, and we've seen a lot of change recently. There's been a palpable change in the attitudes and the dedication of I guess the public sector to alleviate a lot of these issues. So we understand that also from knowing the history of our I guess our failures, we've seen that what happens when we have I guess too traditional of a vertically organized business is that a lot of the employees and a lot of the collaborators and the people involved, they feel like they're not being heard, and they're and perhaps being disenfranchised, but moreover, all that potential is being lost. So to having a truly horizontally or integrated organization where the co-founders are committed to increasing equity, this is really our raison d'etre. It's the reason why we're doing this now, and it's I think it's pretty clear path forward that we need to be inclusive, and that we need to create this organization in order to reach our highest potential as humans. Is to reduce this inequity that we see. I think this is the main driving emotion that makes us want to find solutions.
And if I could just kind of piggyback on what they both said, both in about community-based employment. When people talk about shelters or homelessness, it's a whole different model than what we're talking about. We want to frame things in a more asset-based way. We want to invite partners to come and live, work, and be a part of this experience. We're not going to be focused on just the person's housing status. This is a different approach. And part of one of the things you may have read in the blurb is the idea of a sandbox. In truth, Eugene, we don't really, we're trying a lot of we're pioneering. We have 5,000 people unsheltered on our streets. Nobody knows how to solve this. And what we're trying to do is create a new way of looking at this problem of not having somewhere to belong, not having something to believe in. I think one of the things I've seen is just this tremendous hopelessness that can occur. And if people see how they fit into the larger whole, then that connection can really be made in a very positive way. So I'm going to open this back up to questions. Oh, David, we can't hear you.
I have a question if no one else is ready to speak up.
Sure.
I was in a really unique situation about 30 years ago where I was an aide to a county commissioner down there. And we were dealing with all these issues and made a lot of connections. At the time, I wore several hats. I was a school board member in addition to serving Jerry Rust as his aide. And we were really focused on co-ops, dealing with the timber crisis at the time. We had a homeless situation where people were living underneath the I-5 bridge out there on the McKinsey, and the governor came in and kicked the people out and they had nowhere to go. We had a housing development corporation that only dealt with housing. They were basically warehousing people, but they weren't dealing with the infrastructure issues or the social issues at the time. And it really came down to one person who was a leader in the community, Jerry, who saw the big picture and was willing to kind of co-op all these different interest groups together. I've been out of Eugene now for about 12 years. I misspoke earlier. I actually lived down in Eugene and the Bonita area for about 37 years. And at the time, some of the other host groups that would have participated with us would have been Habitat for Humanity, the Center for Alternative Transportation. We started out in Bonita, a new model for one-stop services, and we received state and federal aid for that, but I believe Bonita was the first or second model in the state to be able to house everything from the WIC program to the employment services. And they've expanded since. They now operate in a regular stick building as opposed to a trailer that has been set up near Bonita Elementary. But it really takes individuals that are willing to create this cooperative process. And I don't know if we have anybody down there serving on the county board anymore. So many people are in their silos. And that's the biggest challenge, is to get them to see the big picture and open up.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that.
I'd love to take over the program, but I'm up here in Portland and I'm in my mid 60s now, and I've got to find a gig to keep the roof over my head.
Well, that's a good point. So Thomas and Sabra, can you speak to the scalability of your model and how it might be applied in other areas?
I guess I'll go first. Well, I mean, we believe that this model is extremely scalable because sustainable transport and moreover human-powered the growth of the bicycle industry, as I was saying, is rapid, to say the least. So integrating a model that takes a new style of sustainable transport. No one has this trike hasn't really entered the market yet, but it's just a matter of time. And then building it locally, sustainably, using local resources, local partnerships and collaboration, and then having this regenerative aspect and realizing the potential of the people right now that have largely been disenfranchised or ignored, moreover just ignored for their potential and capability in being a part of this this economic model, because that's really what it is. We're starting a hybrid company that's not just, and David, you said that a lot of the mentality and the philosophy has been warehousing, just finding shelter for these people, but not actually helping them to reach the next step, and that is job opportunities. So that's really what we're bringing. So we're looking at the best opportunity and the most sustainable business we could possibly be involved in, and the one that allows us to create these closed loop systems to integrate art and these other essential human components of reaching our full potential as human beings, is combining all these in an integrative approach to this very complicated problem that we've only been addressing one narrow piece of it, and that is the shelter where they sleep at night, but ignoring all of these other pieces. So that's, I guess, the aspect of our model that we believe is scalable. The skills of building these basic skills that we're going to need in our new society, skills of remaking things, of growing our own food, of creating closed loop systems for our waste and our trash and our sewage, creating sustainable transport. These are all, everything fits hand in hand. So, and meanwhile, this can create, we carry an entrepreneurial spirit with this, and that's the difference. And that's what makes it so scalable.
That's a really good description. I'm thinking that also, I want to bring in that through finding what other groups are doing in our location and partnering with them to, for instance, help provide them training, help provide training in some other area. One local group has recently asked us if we might be able to help them find more options for employment related training for the people that they're working with, because the people that they're working with don't all want to do what they're doing. And whether it's building these trikes or the accessories that go with them for different uses, or whether it's finding a group that wants to, or is already doing training in commercial sewing, or making space for a group that is doing garden starts for perennials to help people improve their food security. All of these types of possibilities are scalable based on what's locally available. So it's the approach, like Thomas was saying, that's the most scalable. It's looking around to see what's available where I am now and how it can work together. And David, if you can write yourself a job and some way to get paid for it until we figure out that part, come on. And if you can't do that right now, if you have 10 minutes here or there that you'd like to donate, we'd be glad to have your help.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invite. My first thought is going back 30 years to when we had a lot of disabled timber workers, and the feds came in to supposedly save the day, and they worked with Lane Community College, the Lane County workforce team, and a number of other people to retrain citizens in the Eugene area through the Lane Community College or some of the outlets. And unfortunately, their main focus, from what I remember, was like small engine repair. And they had a nursing school out at Lane Community College at the time. I could see ourselves framing a proposal at some point down the road, working with Lane Community College and maybe the county. And I don't have a lot of faith in the city, but it's always important to try to establish and promote those relationships. I would encourage people to try to work together, maybe even through a consortium where we put a proposal together that Peter DeFazio or the governor and some other people that have some pull can frame around a package that would address the pandemic and the fact that we have so many hundreds of thousands of people that are going to be without their basic, careers or what have you to carry on after this is over with.
Wow, thank you.
Nobody else is talking about this in the big arena. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's
They're
for
not
sure.
thinking beyond today.
I'm on the employment subcommittee of the Poverty and Homelessness Board. And
Okay.
several of our members of our subcommittee come from the Lane Workforce Partnership,
Mhm.
which is what used to be the employment department.
Right.
And we've been having some really frank conversations. I say we, I'm kind of the little kid at the table in this group, but they're having some really frank conversations about all the jobs that are never coming back
Exactly.
and how it is that the resources in the county can be pointed in the direction of giving people the skills that they need to create new businesses, to be employed in those new businesses that meet the needs of climate change and economic disruption and all of that. How can we pivot as a community, as a region, to meet the needs that are going forward in a way that can help us as well as everyone else?
Mhm.
And it's a tall order, and nobody currently involved in the employment subcommittee or anybody that I've met in the workforce partnership nobody has a background in what I would call old school economic development. They're just, people have never thought very big scale in terms of what the needs are, and they certainly don't have the human resources necessary to provide training programs themselves, but they want to support the development of training programs. They want to support all these capacities that we kind of let fall by the wayside since the 80s, at least.
Sabra, I want to pitch, and because we've worked together before, but why aren't cooperatives being encouraged? They're more stable, they're self-employment, they're collaborative. And that's what everybody else is doing, except for not in Eugene. So I just want to make a pitch for a co-ops incubator that will enable people to create their own businesses and be self-employed.
Preach, preach. I think the reason why it's not happening is because nobody knows how to do it. It's the same thing as, what I was calling old school economic development. Nobody really knows how to do that anymore.
Not here maybe, but we need
Not
to start
here.
talking to the folks. We met with people who
Yes.
have one in New Mexico. We have contacts with resources that can do that.
And in Wisconsin and Minnesota and
Ohio,
there's
yeah.
a lot in Ohio. There's a lot of that going on, just not so much here. And the folks in our regional co-op development center, they're small and spread really thin. And so they might be able to provide a referral here and there to a person, but there's not really any direct support that they can provide. So yeah, we need to Zoom is awesome. We can bring people from all the way across the country to a meeting here in Eugene without having to step on a plane.
Without getting too far into the weeds, here's a thought for you guys. I was involved with a very special program in high school back in the 60s and early 70s where the students owned stock in their own woodworking business.
Hmm.
And we made speculative and custom items. And we went around the state of Washington teaching other kids how to become entrepreneurs. And we had our own business license. So we framed this through the year where we had woodworkers, we had a shop foreman, a superintendent, a sales manager, and the teacher was the general manager. And we made thousands of dollars. And at the end of the year, we would buy, this was a sustainable program, by the way. We purchased equipment for the shop. We had contracted out to our metals and our drafting department. We had some big jobs, and we'd come in at like 6:30 in the morning and work until about 11 o'clock, just before noon, and then go off to our academic studies. But it was so successful that the small cabinet shops in the Edmonds-Linwood area, north of Seattle, got together and went to the school board and asked them to shut the program down because they saw us as competitors.
Wow.
And this program lasted for about 5 or 6 years, but I was the first kid as a sophomore to participate with the group for a 3-year period. And once I served on the Fern Ridge School Board, I attempted to try to get the superintendent and a couple of teachers to go up to visit a program that had spun off of our group. This was a college graduate from Western Washington who was teaching industrial arts down in Puyallup. And he had expanded the program to get into high tech so that their kids were building cars. And they would go out and they'd raise money by knocking on doors and getting the neighbors to help fund the program. But it was these creative ideas that really kind of built the farm system from, kids that were of school age who could, think big and creatively and get out of our traditional economic model to carry on their own businesses. And I'm sure they're still doing it today, but the traditional way is to kind of shut these programs down when they become too competitive and threaten other people's income.
Mm. So I see we are getting close to time. I'm going to take one more question and then we're going to wrap up. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thanks. I was involved in CAT, I guess starting almost 30 years ago when I came to Eugene. And so the comments related to CAT were curious to me. And so I texted Jan during the meeting and he said he's planning on reopening in the spring.
Wow.
That's
right.
amazing.
We hadn't heard that.
He said as the situation allows.
Could you text him our contact number? We would love to meet with him.
I can, let's see what, I can send something on to him and see
Okay.
what he would like to do. What would you like, how would you like me to, do you want me to give you my
Actually-
contact?
Well, we'll go ahead and we'll close down today's meeting, and then if you wouldn't mind staying a little bit after, and I'll provide that to you. That'd be great.
Okay.
So thank you all for being here. Thank you to Thomas and Sabra for sharing your visionary ideas. And I hope that we could come back in 6 months and share with this group how amazing we're doing and how we've moved the model forward. So thank you very much. And feel free to stay and chat afterwards, like as though we're in real life. Bye.